What's going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes are back. Another superstar joins us here on the hotline, Khalil Rountree Jr. We've called his fights back in the amateur days of Tough Enough, seen him grow all the way through the sport until he had that amazing title fight this past Saturday in Salt Lake City at UFC 307. He joins us now. Khalil, congratulations on a great title fight, one of the best ones I've ever seen. I know you were on the losing end. I know you're disappointed. But still, one of the things you said during fight week was, I want to do my best showing for the fans. I'm media, but I'm also a fan. You came through with me, brother.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's good to see you again after all these years. And yeah, didn't come out with the belt this past weekend, but like you said, one of my main goals was to make sure that the fans and all spectators were entertained. So it seems like that part of the deal got done. So I'm happy. No disappointment here.
And have you seen the fight yet and had a chance to review it and maybe enjoy it yourself? And I know that might sound awkward because again, it wasn't you that got your hand raised, but I'm telling you, there was an incredible buzz after the fight, and people are still talking about it. And today's Friday as we're recording this.
That's awesome. I actually haven't watched the fight like all the way through. I've only seen highlights online of the final like 30 seconds of round four. But I do remember and have, pretty vivid memories of doing really well in rounds one and two. But I do plan hopefully this weekend to go back and watch the fight and kind of analyze myself and see how I did.
You had a 2-1 rounds advantage according to the judges' scorecards. So yeah, again on that front as well, it's not like you were just hanging in there. You were winning the fight going into the championship rounds. My question would be, I guess at that point, did the altitude, which I know you got there early, but did it affect you? Was it maybe inexperience of this being your first title fight versus Pereira's been in a few of these? What would you attribute maybe things started to go wrong in round four?
I can't really say that it was the altitude because we spent so much time in Park City ahead of the fight and even doing altitude training here in Las Vegas up at Mount Charleston. And we even went to California, even weeks before then to go and run some mountains out there. So, as far as the cardio goes, I don't think that I could have been any more prepared. Uh, I did everything I could. I mean, even, the week before the fight, I did like a 6 mile run at 7,000 feet elevation in Park City, and I was okay. So I can't really say that it was the altitude that affected me. I think what it really was is every round it seemed that Alex was able to make adjustments and adapt. And I think by round three, when the pressure came on and he started to add more pressure and mix up the strikes a little bit more, punches and kicks. Once they started landing, I think that, my body responded the way that it did. And anyone who knows, like when you absorb punches, especially to the head, if it's heavy, it's pretty energy. It takes your energy. So I'd say it's more that than anything.
Definitely got more questions for you, but I'm going to turn it over to Goes. However, before I say that, I don't want to forget. I thought it was brilliant of your wife to suggest go all out for that Airbnb, spend the money. It's a title fight, and she got in your ear. But it looked like you had all the accommodations. You definitely were a well prepared fighter. Um, and yeah, I did see and follow you leading up to the fight. You were putting that work in at altitude. It's that's just the way it is. It's the title fight between two warriors that were just throwing down, man. So again, much respect there. And again, shout out to your wife. And then go ahead, Goes. What do you got for
Thank
Khalil
you.
Rountree Jr.?
Khalil, when I was watching that fight, obviously there's a major title on the line, but there was one in the back of my head. And the whole time I'm watching it, I'm thinking, boy, this fight almost defines what Dana White talks about when he says a BMF title. Because to me, man, I can't think of two guys just putting it all out on the line that night in that fight. Being part of it, and then possibly getting a chance to see some of the highlights and stuff like that. What do you think? Like the representation of yourself, the representation of Pereira, do you think that kind of almost defines the definition of a BMF, like the way you guys fought out there?
Yeah, I think that the both of us should definitely be considered BMFs. Yeah, I think the both of us being the size that we are, and the punching power that we possess, and even our highlights that we have in our careers, they're pretty badass in my opinion. So, yeah, it's something similar. I think that. Uh, yeah, if there were like a, BMF division, and, like kind of the heavier guys, that would definitely be one of the fights I think that would be in the run for that title.
I know John Wood is sometimes can be a mad scientist in preparation, and the guy is just so sharp. Have you guys had a chance to like when you walk through the curtain and all that, and you go through whatever it is you need to go through personally with family and all that? Do you just kind of sit back and go, all right, move this here, move that piece there, and I think we've figured this thing out. Like, do you guys even attempt to think about those things, or does it more like time for you to rest and stuff?
Well, this week has been rest. There will be a time where we get together and kind of game plan what's next and what new tools I'll start to develop and what skills I'll focus on and add into the ones I already have. But yeah, this week has been solely focused on rest. I think uh, John Wood is a great coach, especially for this fight. I mean, we did, the most film study we've ever done. We spent more time than we ever have together, just breaking down the little details to be as prepared as I can. So now that we got to see what came out of that, I can definitely see that, the next thing is we're going to sit down, we're going to break down this fight and correct some mistakes.
Hey, Khalil, one thing that we've learned about you throughout the years is that you're very good at being a fighter and having that mentality when you're in the cage. But when you step out of the cage, you're also very well at being Khalil Rountree Jr., the human being, and kind of tuning out fighting when you need to. Have you thought about what this process will be like? I know sometimes you'll go on a trip or sometimes, just kind of getting away. Have you thought about what you're going to do to kind of improve yourself? Because you're always telling us about these things that you do that can sometimes change your life, change your focus. Have you ever thought about that step?
Yeah, very lightly. I think right now, and kind of to go back to the beginning of what you said, I don't know how to be anything other than myself. Sometimes I'll get emotional, or sometimes even when I go in and fight, I can be pretty violent. I just do my best to just be as authentic as I can. Um, and then after fights, the only thing I can think right now is I have a trip planned. I'm gonna go spend a couple of weeks in Spain, play some golf, kind of just get out of the Vegas and fight environment, because although I haven't fought since December, I've been training. I've been training super hard every single day since my last fight, and I'd say the last vacation that I took was about a year ago. So I'm gonna go to Spain for a little bit. I'm gonna use the rest of the year to heal, recover. I'll get back to training around early to late December and start to think about what's next. But um, I think as far as personal growth goes, my biggest focus right now and next steps would be to get a bit more involved with my community here back home in Las Vegas. I think now that I've gotten a chance to fight for the title and get to grow my name a little bit more and gain a little bit more respect from MMA fans around the world, I'd like to be able to, to do a little bit of outreach here in town. I don't know exactly what that looks like just yet, but I do see myself being able to kind of come out of my shell, out of my my bubble, and just start to get a little bit more connected with the local community here in Vegas.
Yeah, I remember when we first moved to Vegas, the talk was that it was so cold, like the people coming from different places, that sense of community. That's all gone away. Like now,
Yeah.
there's a very good sense of community here, and we love our heroes, man. So it's great to hear that you want to do that because it really does go a long way. And what I want to ask you here, my last question from me is just moving forward. I'm going to use kind of a silly analogy, and maybe you can play along here. But have you ever had like helped a friend move, and sometimes they never really tell you how bad it's going to be, and sometimes it's light, and at the end they go, "Look, but I take you to Lazy Dogs or get some burgers or something." But sometimes when it's rough, they owe you like a steak dinner or something. I feel
Yeah.
like the UFC owes you a steak dinner. Uh, what would that steak dinner be? You know what I mean? I feel like Khalil Rountree Jr. has earned the right to kind of say what he wants next, not what they think should be next. So, in perfect world, what is next for you?
Oh, well, I think that for me, I think after that fight, I've spoken personally with Dana and Hunter, and I mean, I feel like I got the steak dinner already just because like they were entertained, and I think for me, as a partner with the UFC, it's one of my biggest goals to just make sure that like the guys at the top are pleased with what they see, and after speaking with them, and them being excited about the performance, they're definitely pleased. So that to me felt like a treat in itself. As far as like what's next on the fight end, I can imagine that there'd be a little bit more room for me to say what I want. But that vision right now is not so clear because prior to this fight, the only thing that I was focused on was this fight with Alex. And now that I've had it, although it didn't go the way that I want. I think it's going to take, it's going to take this time of me sitting and kind of basking in this moment and this result of this fight to really figure out what's next. But one thing I do know is that my motivation is still there. Um, it's still my dream to become the champion. And I think that after facing an opponent like Alex, I think that it really I proved to myself that that I have what it takes to get there again.
Man, I lied. I got another goofy analogy before I handed it back to George. He's probably gonna kill me. Have you seen the movies, the Rocky movies?
Yeah,
First Rocky movie, he didn't win, but he kind of did, right? I
yeah.
feel like you're in that position. If if the Rocky movies were like Khalil Rountree movies, how far are we gonna go? Because I think that went in like 7 or 8 movies. Where are we at? Are we like Rocky 2, Rocky 3 around there? Because you've been doing this a while, right?
Yeah, I've been doing this a while. But I don't necessarily want to do it for a long time. I do see myself, I don't know exactly what it is yet, but I do see myself being something outside of a fighter. Um, I want to focus on starting a family soon, and uh, I still have aspirations of traveling and living in other countries, and maybe even raising my family in another country. Uh, so I'm not sure how far the series goes. I'd like to think that uh, the next time the next time I fight for a title would be sooner than later, and and then I can just defend it until I don't have it anymore. But I did sign a new contract with the UFC prior to this fight, so I got a good handful of fights to complete before I could really call it quits.
All right, I got a lot of catching up to do. First of all, Rocky 1 was your amateur career. Rocky 2 was everything you did up until this title fight. Rocky 3 was the title fight alone. It stands on its own. I think you're at Rocky 4, which is post UFC 307. I don't know how many Rockies will be left after that, but that's just kind of how I interpret it. Different steps along the way of your rise, as a human being, as a fighter, accepted the acceptance of you know, as a prize fighter, or now we're saying this guy's top shelf. He's already gone with the champ. He was up 2-1 against the champ. This is a possible, you know, title fight of the year, or, you know, one of the best title fights we've ever seen. So, second, um, your steak dinner hasn't been paid yet unless they take care of you. And here's why I say this. Now, I do this on behalf of all the fighters. It's not to try and get you guys in trouble or anything, but I clearly remember one story. DC tells it all the time. When he fought John Jones, there was a build-up. It was a great fight, and they surprised him with a $1 million check. Are you going to get one of those? Probably not. But I'd like to see you get a $500,000 check or something, because that was a great title fight. You guys poured it all out there, and both of you won't be the same, you know, going forward, because you took a little, you know, you guys both took some damage. You guys took a lot out of each other, right? But hopefully you get one of those checks, man, you know,
Yeah,
where you can
I could
change your
say,
life like that.
I could say without giving away, too many details, that the UFC has definitely, they've done a good job at making sure that that I'm taken care of after this fight. Um, yeah, I don't want to say amounts, but I'm happy and I'm grateful, and they've definitely showed their appreciation for sure.
I
Yeah.
love it.
So
I love
yeah,
it.
I
All
gotta
right.
at least let that be known that, yeah, they've shown shown their appreciation
Awesome.
as far as that goes.
Good, good, because that's a successful company, and this is the epitome, like Go said, of a great fight, which happened to be a great title fight, and it happened to be against, right now, Khalil, honestly, arguably their best pound for pound fighter. You know, you represented out there. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out. As
Thank
far
you.
as next, what about a name that you were tied to in the past? In June, you're supposed to fight Jamal Hill. That didn't happen, but now you know he had an injury, and now obviously you're on the mend. But maybe early next year, would you like to revisit that, or do other names maybe interest you more?
I think right now, any any name in the top five or within, title contention, to me, makes sense. There's not one name specifically. There's not one person who I'm like emotionally attached to, and a fight that I think I deserve next. But I would like to continue uh, to fight people within the top five so that I can get another shot at the title. Um, like it seems like majority of the guys uh, are booked or injured, or but yeah, while I'm healing up, there'll be a good number of matchups to happen, and I'd love anybody that sets me up for another title fight. That's the way that I see it.
Yeah, that one would be a nice one. I know the fans would be into it because styles make fights, and I think you both have appealing styles for fans. You know what they like out there. He had some comments that kind of took over. Remember, I told you there's a big buzz around your fight, the fight itself, who's next, and things like that. And one of the things was he was caught on camera kind of doing like a yawn, right? Towards the fight. Now he went out there and clarified, and I have a quote from him because it's right to get it, at least now that people are being asked about it, for them to clarify, well, what did that mean? And so he says, now on to the yawn, because he discussed a little bit on his YouTube channel about, you know, this instance. And he says the yawn at the end was it entertaining? Yes. And I'm glad he said that, because it was. Then he says, was I impressed? No, I'm not impressed. You know, I'm ready to go. Did I see anything in the cage that scares me or that I didn't expect to see? No. Did you see, I guess, him making that gesture? And do you have any thoughts now that he's kind of clarified, at least from his end, what he was thinking at that moment?
I saw it after the fact online, um, and it's nice to hear the clarification. because based off the crowd response and everything that I've seen and other articles and posts that I've seen, uh, yeah, I mean, most majority of people, seem to think that it was an entertaining fight. So I was a bit confused to see why, maybe he thought it was boring or, worth a yawn. But like I said, the clarification definitely helps. And yeah, everyone, not everyone's going to think the same. Not everyone's going to be entertained or um it's good if there's nothing to be scared of. Like, cool. I don't really have much opinion on it or spend too much time, like getting wrapped up into, I guess, like the drama of it all. So I think that it's good that he was able to make himself clear for maybe the people who were uh, a bit more concerned about, that gesture.
Three last quick ones. Did you have fun out there? Despite the result and the injury, were you having fun in your title fight?
This was the most fun I've ever had in a fight in my life. I was actually in the middle, like I remember during the rounds, during the exchanges, this guy's throwing at me and everything, and I just remember I was like having conversations with myself. I was just like it was just like conversations of happiness, and I'm just like actually like literally like thanking God. I'm like, wow, thanks God for this moment. Like this is so cool. Like literally like these were the internal conversations happening at moments during the fight. Yeah, every moment of it, the Salt Lake City crowd, the UFC staff, the whole experience itself was really really memorable. I'll never forget this. I'll never forget this moment in time.
What I loved is when the fight first started, you came out with a two-piece right away, man. I was like, okay, there's no deer in the headlights here. This guy came to win, and your striking is so refined, your punches are so straight and clean. So I loved it. I love hearing that you were having fun out there, because at the end of the day, I know it's a stressful thing to be a fighter. It's not for everyone. Some people throw up in the back before they even go out. Some people have to use the restroom, and then some people have performance anxiety. But it looked like you were pretty much on point. Um, then the injuries, when it's around the eyes and the nose, we don't want to assume. So now that you've had your surgeries, what exactly did you have? You had the laceration, but any broken bones around the eye, and what can you
Yeah,
tell?
so this happened, I believe, fourth round. I felt a jab, and I actually felt my eyebrow split open. This one pretty much around the same time,
Hmm.
and I think the knee mixed with the uppercut in the fourth round, the one that put me down, uh, did some damage to my nose. So I had my septum replaced because it was crooked, like very crooked, like a letter C, and I couldn't breathe. So the doctor went back in there and straightened it up. I still have these like plastic like stents in my nose right now to keep the airway open, but I just got all the gauze taken out today. Uh, so yeah, like broken nose, cut over the eye, cut under the eye, and then the cut that was on the bridge of my nose that happened 3 weeks before the event. I was sparring and I got hit in the nose like like skin, but it split my nose open pretty good. So I got that stitched up really quickly. Got it, kept it under wraps. Didn't tell anybody. And the doctor told me, he's like, chances are the first time you get punched in this thing, it's gonna open up because it's very or like it's only been 3 weeks. So that was expected. So no other injuries. I mean, everything else feels good. My hands, my legs. Uh, yeah, people mentioned like maybe the calf kicks were damaging me. I've dealt with calf kicks before, and my leg is totally fine. There's no swelling. There's no bruising on my calf. Everything was just like the cuts in the nose. The nose was the worst thing.
What's in the water at Syndicate Gym, man? Like, we got Marab Davalishvili wearing gold. I know Jean Wei Lee's been working with your coach, Coach Wood,
Yeah.
for a few camps now, and a lot of fighters headlining, getting important wins, and you obviously in a title fight. We've already said plenty of great things about it. You know how we feel about it, but talk about the gym, the culture, your coach, like this. You guys are kind of like on fire right now. There's good momentum over there.
Yeah, Syndicate's a great place. It's been a long time coming. I think that the main thing is John Wood's dedication to the gym and to the team. I think it took years for us to really get where we are now. Uh, it took a lot of ups and downs and learning for John himself, but I think right now, like collectively, we're we're pretty in sync, all of us. We care about each other over there. We take care of each other when it's time to train. We're not trying to hurt each other, really. We're just trying to build each other up. uh, when people have fights coming up, the whole gym's there to support and to make sure that the guys are ready. John's done a really good job at hiring some extra coaches to help him oversee and the uh, handle the fights that are coming up. We do a lot of cage rounds and simulated sparring sessions so that when we step in the cage, nothing is too surprising. So I think I'd say number one is John and his dedication to creating a good gym, a great gym, and the secondary would be the team and just our bond to each other and everyone having very similar dreams of becoming champions.
You guys are on fire, man. Um, Khalil, is it all right if I ask you one more that just came to me?
Yeah,
How,
of
how you
course.
doing on time? Because you've been gracious with your
No,
time.
it's okay. It's okay.
All right. By the way, that looks like that cat back there looks like it would be Gene Simmons's cat. Is that your cat, or is that
No,
just
no.
art that you?
One of my good friends is a great photographer, Kenneth
Oh,
Capello,
okay.
and I love cats, and so he gifted me this cat photo that he took. So,
Yeah, that's cool. All right.
yeah,
That
thanks.
wasn't the question. The question was, and this interview's about you, but I think it was interesting. Mark Goddard pulled Joe Rogan aside and said, in 20 years of being a ref, I've never heard punches being thrown so hard as Pereira was throwing them. Was he kind of the guy that hit you the hardest in all the fights that you've had? What did you think of, I guess, Goddard's comment? Is Pereira really that special in terms of like the power that he has, or?
One thing I will say is it's because Goddard has never refed one of my fights ever. That was his first time being the ref in a cage with me. So yeah, and Alex at the same time. So yeah, Alex's punches were definitely hard. The hardest I've ever been hit out of all the guys I've ever fought. Uh, yeah, but I think yeah, if Goddard would have refed some of my fights in the past, I think that comment would have been made years ago.
Hey, listen, thanks for the time. It's great talking to you after all these years, but it doesn't mean we haven't been watching for you. And even though it's probably not ethical of us, we're fanboys, man, that walked into this job 17, 18 years ago. So sorry, it's just ingrained in us. Cheering for you, honestly, all these past 10 years for you to do well and get to this point that you can compete at the highest level. And you did well, man. You represented well.
Yeah, thank you guys. Like I said, it's nice to see familiar faces, and the ones that I've seen for years now. And yeah, I appreciate your guys' support. And shout out to the guys tonight fighting at Tough Enough. I'll be there in attendance to support the syndicate guys.
Mm.
Yeah, that are fighting just like just like I was,
Mhm.
trying to make the dream come true.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thanks for the time. Enjoy the fights and have fun in Spain.
Thanks, guys. Have a
See
good
ya.
one.